Well met, lords and ladies, Jacob Butter speaking, and a warm welcome to this week's Walking Wednesday. There might soon be a wet welcome. I'm to understand that it's about to start chucking it down with rain, so we'll see. I guess for right now I can do this, get some ventilation, which is exactly why I started wearing a woolly hat as of recently, but I keep forgetting to actually bring it out of my costume box for the panto, because that's the last time I actually took it somewhere. Not that I'm using it in the panto, but anyway. I don't have much time, just on account of, things are starting to ramp up, and I'll explain why later. But on the subject of the panto, I feel like that's probably the best place to start, considering it is also most likely the title of this video. So yes, I was on BBC Radio Surrey. The reason for that, I think I talked about the fact that it was going to happen a little bit, but I'll backtrack just so you know how it came to be and why. So it is panto related. So I think maybe like a couple of weeks ago or something, the director of the panto that I'm in decided, well, not decided, I guess he was, well, maybe he decided it, maybe he was approached, I'm not sure what happened, but he posted a message saying that he was going to be on a slot of Amdram Thank You Ma'am, which is the section they do apparently to promote Amdram performances or talk about what is actually going on, and a little bit about the theatre companies in question, because he is also the chair of the company that is putting on the panto. So he was the ideal person, obviously, to be put forward. However, he said that there were 2 slots, and anyone could occupy them if they, the other one, if they so desired. And this actually happened like right after I said I couldn't make it to a particularly important rehearsal, because I was going to be away in formally visiting family at the time. So yes, it was about 2 weeks ago. And I replied, yeah, absolutely, I'll do it. So I was the first and only person to respond to that message. So naturally, the position went to me. Probably one of the most unqualified people to actually speak on behalf of the theatre company, seeing as I only learned of their existence a couple months ago. So, I don't know. It was also quite an interesting contrast, I suppose, between myself and the director, because the director mentioned that, he likes to talk about how he started off as the rear end of a horse in a different performance, and worked his way up. And then, meanwhile, I somehow managed to. I actually was going to talk about the fact that I actually got 2 roles that I didn't audition for when I ever got around to talking about that process, because I wasn't told exactly what they were going to discuss, because obviously they need some spontaneity. It's theatre after all. But yeah, me not being informed about the entire process would end up causing a potential issue right at the very end, but we'll get there. So yeah, as soon as I knew that I got the position, I actually was still in Formby at the time, so it was all set in stone before that point. And I said it was okay for the director to give them my number. I also offered that I could use a different setup if they wanted me to, but they never got back to me. They never contacted me directly about anything. But I knew what time I was going to be called, because the director said so. But the first I received of them was just a phone call, and them going, "Hello, BBC." And I obviously expecting the call, I said hello back, and they said to put myself on loudspeaker. So I guess maybe that was to do with like the echo. I thought they would have had more feedback actually if that were the case. Just as well we weren't sharing, a space to begin with. I don't know. the director and I, that is, we were at different places, obviously. So yeah, that was what happened on Sunday, and yeah, they talked to the director first, because of course they did. Then they asked me, you know, who I was playing, how I heard about the theatre company in the first place, and I gave the only shout out that I had time to do, because actually one thing I forgot to mention, I wasn't aware if everyone knew about the whole radio broadcast in the cast, because I'm pretty sure that the group chat that we have is just for the adults in the performance, not the kids. I think so anyway, because a lot of the time the parents will speak on behalf of the kids, which is obviously quite normal anyway. So I thought to mention, okay, you know, make sure, remember to tune in for this, because this is still happening, in case you haven't seen the group chat, or I don't know, you weren't given access to it, whatever the case may be. And immediately I was actually I was bombarded with, hey, can you give me a shout out? Can you give me shout outs? No, say shout out to such and such, such and such. And there was no time to do that, but actually it was kind of ironic, because one thing that is supposed to happen, I'll give a spoiler for the panto a little bit. You know, one of my characters, well, I said this on the radio, I guess there's not really much of a spoiler. I play Freddie Venus, which is their version of Freddie Mercury. Again, that's their trim, which is it still obvious? But do that, it is. Anyway, yeah. So, and the whole thing is that, you know, the whole village of Rye, which is where it's set, is, you know, is enamored with, you know, my very existence. And so, you know, there's a point where they're supposed to mob me, being the celebrity that I am, and basically, I'm going to turn around again, and basically, you know, just kind of, you know, corner me, so I can exit off stage, and you know, that's part of like the whole thing to hype up the character. And that took a while to kind of get right, because they didn't want to be like right in my face, and understandably, except for the girl playing Jill, actually. You know, she is fearless. Anyway, so aside from her, you know, like, you know, they leave like, you know, more obvious gaps. They don't want to like surround. There wasn't much of like, you know, like a you know, like, Freddie, it's over me here, Freddie, hey, look at me, you know. I don't know, sign an autograph or something. I don't know what they might be. Whatever they would decide. There's not much in the way of improv there. They're just kind of going like. It honestly seems more like a rugby match than it does a celebrity being mobbed. But there you go. I guess there's a little bit of overlap between the two when you think about it. Anyway, my point is, when the whole shout out thing actually happened, they started to do the mobbing around me, but just naturally, and like yelling over each other. And it was actually I mean, I think the director or the dame that pointed out that yeah, this is exactly what they're supposed to do in the first place. So I then made a point to, you know, start doing like, I want to make free, you know, my actual line before actually exiting. And we haven't rehearsed that scene since, so I'm wondering what that's going to be like, or whether or not they actually remember to listen, and if they're going to ask about any shout-outs or lack thereof that occurred. But yes, I'm back to the actual broadcast itself. I mentioned my mum, giving her the credit that she deserved for actually forwarding me the advert in the first place. Yeah, they kind of simply just asked me, you know, like what, you know, like who I was playing, you know, a few other details, like, you know, what my general experience is. I tried to talk about the 3-year dry spell that I've that is still in the process of being broken. I didn't mention that one time in Galicia. That honestly, that barely counts. That was me grasping at straws back in the day. But yeah, we actually. Ow. There we go. Yeah. So I mentioned that. I mentioned a bit of like the burnout and the fact that I was grateful for the opportunity to actually, come out of that in the first place. And that was basically that kind of drew us towards the end. I know that I can ramble a lot, but I try my best to not this time, just in case, spare myself on the details of, okay, exactly what, last woodpecker I've ever heard of, I think, actually. Anyway, just to provide like a little bit of an interesting anecdote. Which then led to the final part. And how I said before that them not telling me about the program itself, or like what was going to be expected, would come back to bite them. Well, it's biting time. So before they started, because obviously I stayed on the line after they said hello BBC. I guess they would have like put me through otherwise. So I could hear, through the phone, like what the actual radio program was saying, and talking about the musical We Will Rock You, and how there was like a little bit of a song beforehand. Actually, they said that they were going to play that afterwards anyway, which is kind of like them giving spoilers, I suppose. But that kind of saved them a little bit, because what they told me in that moment, well, I guess they told me, they were kind of like saying to the audience as well, was, well, it's now time that we're going to allow Amjam guests to pick a track from their favorite musical, and we can play it. Here's the thing. First of all, my favorite musicals, both of them, the joint first, are both internet-based. I don't know. I mean, I know that there's album versions of them, but they would have to sample them and get them, and they would have to do that well in advance, actually. And also, given my experience, actually, because I have done a few workshops, a thing called Radio Rocks, that means that I actually know how a lot of these, how like the radio songs are queued up well in advance usually. If anything, they're like prepared. If I guess a BBC radio story works the same way as, I guess they're now called Greatest Hits Radio. They used to be called Eagle Radio, which is a far better name. If it works the same way, then most of the time you have to like press either the next button or like queue up certain sound effects, or like there are basically things there that is already prepared in advance for the DJs to take part in, before they're actually able to, before they say, their things in between. So I knew that there was no way that in that short time they would even be able to, even imagining that I happened to pick a more mainstream musical. They'd have to scroll through the tracks right there and then and there, through all of them, presume that they had them to begin with, and then put them in. There was no possible way that would have been done without being prepared in advance. Which is why it was fortunate that I was there on the line beforehand and listened to the We Will Rock You musical being mentioned right before this. The spoilers end up saving their backsides, because I was able to say, I wasn't told about this, but I know the other track of We Will Rock You that is prepared. So, I guess go ahead and enjoy that. Next track is from We Will Rock You, I suppose. And then, of course, they played one, which happened to be, I think, just We Will Rock You itself, I believe, if I remember correctly. That was their, that was it. That was, they hung up, and, life continued. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure that they meant to, they discussed this with the director, who, the reason that I'm Freddie Venus to begin with is because Queen, / King in this case, is a huge part of of the panto itself. They're a running theme. They're the main character's favorite band. They have come to the Village of Rye for a performance. You know, there's a whole thing. Obviously, I mentioned before, the town is enamored with them, so that's also going on. So, you know, they're pretty important, and there's a lot of Queen tributes throughout. Not to mention a character for every, not for every member actually. I'm actually now confused whether or not one actor that I know is playing John Priest or Brian June. I don't know which one actually at this point. I feel like it's kind of a mix of both. But anyway, the idea was that they would all have that, and that's because, you know, the director's a massive Queen fan. So of course, his favorite musical happens to be one that has a bunch of Queen songs in it. So I thought, yeah, okay, they picked the right song, but not necessarily the right person to introduce it. So, you know, the best I could do was say, okay, that's not really, I can't claim that this is my favorite because I've never seen it, actually. But this is what you have, so go ahead and play it. And also buy tickets, please. So, yeah. My dad thought that was hilarious, the way that I was, you know, honest to a fault there. It's like, I mean, there's only so much that a person can yes and under those circumstances, I think. The director and I have not talked about the event since that point. And in fact, he's actually gone on to say that the ticket sales have actually slowed. I believe correlation, not causation. In this case, I don't think the Amdram program negatively impacted the sales at all. I think it's just because, you know, they started promoting them a while ago, and then it's, you know, it's getting up to that time. So now he's kind of switched gears, basically, you know, to say, oh, well, you know, this make up for a perfect Christmas present for family and friends. You know, panto tickets for January. You know, as it goes. So, I suppose I think I'll do the same thing. You know, let's help that out a bit. If you happen to be near to my area, then I will put a link in the description of this Walking Wednesday. That will be where you can actually buy some tickets, and you can see me make a fool of myself on stage for the first time in about 3 years, which, you know, can't put a price on that, except you can, because there is a price, but I forget what it was. So yeah, I guess go ahead and look at that. Before we conclude this, by the way, I will say that, as I said before, that the things are amping up over here. That's because, you know, Gacha Fest deadline has also, for adding videos, has finished. Turns out that Mops wants the nominations from the judges by the 20th, so I've been, you know, furiously, like, you know, clicking and like making and rechecking all of the different entries to see what I think we should be nominated for each one. A lot of them are for, like, you know, best Gacha series, best this, best that, which, you know, is obviously you have to. I can't really put something down or put a definitive answer down until I've inspected them all, even the ones I haven't seen yet. So yeah, that's what I've been working on. So I guess I'll go ahead and head back, get some food, and return to doing that. As for the Jacobs, however, the judges have been chosen. So this year we have, once again, Bon and Eli have expressed interest on Discord. No one replied to the post, by the way. I know how the director feels now. But KW also said that, you know, if we need help, that she would be up for it, and she's going to give it a go. So yeah, we either have the same 3 judges as last year, or we have 4 judges. Pretty sure we've settled on 4. So yeah, that's the quick update in that regard. Remember to get those tickets, because that's important too. And I'll work out the rest of the stuff in the background. And for now, please leave a like or dislike, because your opinion matters. And subscribe if you haven't done so already. And on that note, until next time, farewell.